My employee looked at me over his shoulder, unaware that I was his boss. I own a franchise that my family started when I was young. I was the only one who wanted to take over the family business, so my father ended up leaving it to me before he passed away. My father gave me 2 restaurants, and I currently have 12. I hired family members, including my nephews and my children, to manage my locations and learn how to expand the family business after I'm gone. I never forced them to manage my restaurants, but when they were teenagers, I showed them my wealth and explained that if they wanted the lifestyle and comfort I had, I was giving them the opportunity to achieve it on their own merit. They all understood that if they wanted a share of my restaurants, they had to learn to be entrepreneurial and run a business with discipline. My oldest son, 30, manages 4 locations. My 28-year-old daughter has 3. My youngest son, 24, manages 2, and my 26-year-old nephew manages 3. I'm very proud of what they've accomplished, and I feel very confident that my efforts will be taken care of when I'm no longer here. From time to time, I like to drop by one of my restaurants unannounced to make sure everything is up to standard and running smoothly for the public. I'm a simple guy, and I have no interest in buying expensive clothes to impress anyone. My family even says that if they didn't know me, I could pass for a homeless person because of my casual way of dressing. One day, I decided to go into one of the restaurants my son manages. I opened the door and waited in the lobby with 3 other people who were there with their families. All of them, except me, were served and seated within the next 5 minutes. I continued waiting patiently. A waitress glanced at me and kept walking, smiling at other customers. Then another waitress walked past me and completely ignored me as well. By that time, 2 more families had come in, and both waitresses seated them without any problems. I was completely shocked and speechless at what I was witnessing, especially since my restaurants are known for their excellent customer service. Tired of waiting, I decided to approach the same waitress to ask if I could be seated. Her smile vanished immediately, and she glared at me with obvious annoyance when I stopped her, saying, "Excuse me." I apologized again and asked when I could be seated, as I had been patiently waiting at the entrance for over 45 minutes. The waitress, still annoyed, told me to wait patiently and that someone would come to serve me when there was space, even though there were free tables. 5 minutes later, another family came in and asked for a table, and the same waitress immediately led them to an empty table right in front of me. At that moment, I knew she was judging me by my appearance, and I began to get truly frustrated. I decided I didn't want to waste any more time and left the restaurant to calm down. 10 minutes later, I stormed out. I had never felt so disrespected in my life, much less in my own company. I decided to return 30 minutes before closing time, around the time my son usually comes back to the restaurant to do the paperwork and balance the till. When I walked in, the first thing I saw was the same waitress in the lobby. She saw me and gave me the most contemptuous look imaginable, full of attitude. She mocked me and said arrogantly, "You again? Didn't you get the hint the first time?" Once again, I was shocked and said, "Excuse me, don't you know how to treat people with respect?" She got even more annoyed and yelled at me, "Listen, old man, we're about to close, and this restaurant doesn't serve people who dress like you." I was completely speechless and so angry that I even started getting annoyed with my son for hiring that girl without checking her character. I'd had enough of her insults. Just as I was about to start yelling at her to put her in her place, my son walked past in the hallway and said in surprise, "Dad, what are you doing here?" I glared at him, barely containing my anger, and asked directly, "Who the hell is this girl, and how on earth did you manage to hire someone so disrespectful here?" My son, now visibly worried by my tone, tried to calm me down. Then he turned to the waitress, his voice low and serious but firm, and ordered, "To my office. Now." I had a moment to compose myself as we walked toward the office. I looked at the waitress and said to my son, "I want your colleague here too." I hadn't forgotten the other waitress who had also ignored me when I first arrived. My son, sitting silently behind his desk, then spoke as the 2 employees trembled. "Do you realize this man is my father? The owner of all 12 restaurants in this city." Both waitresses remained silent, their faces pale, until they began to stammer desperate apologies. I interrupted them mid-sentence and said coldly, "Keep your apologies to yourself. If you treat a customer based on their clothes, you have no place in my family or my business. You're fired." My son nodded, validating my decision, and asked them to gather their things immediately. I left the restaurant knowing that, although my sons are great managers, it always takes the owner's gaze to remind everyone that respect has no price and no uniform.